Archive on PUREchannel, c'est un vrai plaisir de recevoir ce groupe qui va jouer à Rock en Seine pour une performance assez incroyable puisque le groupe joue avec un orchestre symphonique. Hi guys, thank you very much for coming on PUREchannel.
It was a pleasure, mate.
Tonight I was saying in French you're going to play with a symphonic orchestra. What an amazing project. I told you already, how many are you in general on stage?
Well, there's the normal 9 of us plus 32-piece orchestra behind us, so it's quite a lot.
How did you have the idea of making this?
Well, we've done it. We played before. You know, we have used orchestras a couple of times before when we did the Grand Rex and things. But the idea of doing it at a festival, I think it was just Darius's crazy idea, really, wasn't it? And it's a mad time to do it, and it's you know, it's a challenge to you know, because you only have. You know, we had about 15 minutes worth of sound check with them so far today. So you know, but we did a gig last night and it was absolutely amazing. So.
Yeah. The crazy idea of Darius because of his background. Do you think he goes back to his roots, musical, classical roots?
Yeah, I think so in general.
I think deep down, it's in him. You know, he's got a little bit of the mad composer thing buried deep in him somewhere. I think so. Yeah, I think for him as well, it's a big accomplishment, isn't it, for him to work that way? Yeah.
If he had his way, he would only ever tour with orchestras.
Yeah, he tends to joke about that.
He's serious about it. Yeah, well, the symphonic touch has run along all the records of Archive. You know, in Londinium it was already the case, some of it. Michel Vaillant also. You had a concert, musique botanique in Brussels, acoustic and unplugged. The symphonic touch has always been like that. Is it a way to put it on the table and say, yeah, we do have that orientation, we're gonna play it fully?
Well, I think the fact that you know, we have used orchestras and it is a big part of the Archive sound, really. If you can, why not actually get the real thing, really? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's something that we couldn't really afford to do very often, but it's just nice to be able to. It's a hell of an experience, you know. It means I don't have to play much on stage because I play all the string parts. So I just sit there, just watch them. It's been great.
It also gives a sense to Darius that is on stage, always conducting. Yeah, I think it's one of the signature. I was wondering how to describe the sound of Archive through the records, and then I had a picture of you in concert with all your energy in the middle. Darius Sam that gives that very groove to Archive, and you hypnotizing, bouncing, like hypnotizing by the loops and the. Is it this? Do you think it's the signature?
You might be right. It's we do it. It's just one of those natural things that kind of has it. Darius has got a few new little moves going on now, which are quite impressive. It's good. And, but yeah, I suppose you're right in a way. It's got that kind of, you know.
Since you started, you were a DJ, Danny. I heard you first bootleg a Prince song. Is that right?
Yes, I did. My first track I ever did was called "When Doves Cry." When Doves Cry. I put it out. I just did this. It's just a bootleg of "When Doves Cry" with loads of drums and tone bass lines underneath it. It was great. I made 500 copies of it. I've still got most of them at home. So.
They're still to buy, yeah.
Yeah, I've got about 300 at least at home. So.
Bit of pleasure, those, mate. Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and then did you have the sensation you find the balance in between Darius' classical formation we were talking about? I'm talking about the very beginning, yeah. And then your bootleg, and that again you were in this hypnotizing boots, and him bringing.
When we first started working together on tracks like Genocide 2 and bands like that, it was more the fact that I was concentrating on doing the rhythms and the beats and samples, and then and Darius is a songwriter, you know, he would come up with the chords and the lyrics a lot of the time. So it was a good balance, you know, I mean, at that point, and it's kind of carried on that way really, and then everyone else sort of, you know, added everything to it. But I think that's where we get the. And making a lot of house music and stuff is where you get the kind of build in the music, and you know, tracks like Lights and things. The dynamics came from us writing, doing a lot of like house music and sort of dance stuff. You know, it's important.
Do you think playing with the orchestra is a bit like the unplugged sensation and the musique botanique you did also in Brussels? It puts the melodies and the lyrics like in front. Really, it changed the lecture of the songs.
Yes. Yeah, I guess because I think, yeah, you get more of the sense of, because where you have the orchestra behind, and it kind of singles it out. But yeah, it makes it a little bit more sort of not lonely, but yeah, you get a bit more. You can feel it a little bit more, you know. But yeah, it's true, because obviously some of the arrangements are slightly different because of the orchestra. There's a bit more space in parts rather than with guitars and things like that. So yeah, no, I'd say it does.
Was it a really different way of working and arranging than the unplugged moments and the other stuff you did like that?
The unplugged ones is a very completely different way. You know, you're taking away all of the production, so it's kind of, you know, it's a completely different kettle of fish. It just shows the beauty of the raw song, really. You know, doing with the orchestra is, I suppose, in general, as you know, it hasn't been that different, you know. It's like, you know, it's still exactly the way the arrangements of the orchestra are kind of mostly the arrangements we've done in the studios anyway, and there's other songs we've added to and messed around with. But in general, hasn't changed that much, and especially for this festival set, we're keeping it quite heavy, aren't we? So
yeah. There's not a lot of, there's no slow sort of, there's none of the sort of more individual bits with just strings. It's the strings and the band all together in pretty much every song.
Yeah, the music, the electronic side of it is still there.
Yeah.
In fact, there are going to be moments when you won't even hear the orchestra whatsoever. So,
yeah. We were talking about the lyrics. I heard now you're all writing together, and it was all a lot of the case on controlling chords. Everyone's bringing, for the ones that are singing, like you two, I understand that you bring it, you sing it, but I always wonder in archive, for the songs you've been writing, or whether you or Darius, how could you work with the singers? Like for instance, Black for you, again for Darius. This is very personal, and
it's a weird one, because Dave wrote Black. Yeah, Dave wrote Black. That's one. Dave and Roscoe, they always write so far always write their own lyrics, don't they?
Yeah, both Roscoe and I have all the lyrics that we've written, we've performed ourselves. Yeah, and the music we've co-written. Like I co-write music with Dan or with Darius, but all the lyrics that I've written, I always perform myself. So it's kind of my own, and your own, so our own sort of attachment to what we're bringing to the collective, you know.
When it's others' words, whatever, if it's
I must say, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do, being my own lyricist, but within Archive, it's kind of, when I first came in, worked with Dan and Darius, it was to do a tour, and I was singing all the songs that they'd written, and there's a few that I feel I've kind of given my own emotion towards myself now, so I feel attached in that way, and I know where they've come from, and obviously being close to everyone, I know they mean a lot, and yeah, it's a good balance. Because there's a few that we just we have to play, and it just so happens that when the time was, it was when I came in, so it's kind of, I take them on board and give it some.
Put your mark on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Finding it so hard, it's
That's your own.
feels like you've been singing that since year dot.
What was it difficult sometimes? The first question I was asking to
lyrics
give. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got to get used to it. It's kind of strange, when I say lyrically. I think one of the first major songs I ever wrote lyrically was "Again," which is and writing that for Craig. And it was that kind of worked well, because I was talking to Craig the night before, and just talking to him kind of got an idea, and I'd got to know his sort of style a bit then. And nowadays, I mean, mainly the stuff that I write for Darius writes. We write with Pollard or for Pollard or with Maria or for Maria mainly at the moment. And I kind of, when we write something, we kind of think, they'll sit there and say, "This sounds like Maria on this," you know what I mean, or we'll work it out, or and sometimes it doesn't work, but in general, we've got to know the way everyone is, and everyone's sort of powers and strengths and weaknesses. So it's the way it is for us as writers as well.
The collective too. That will be the last questions. You're working in collective, but you're also independent in some. Like I'm thinking about the concert in Athens. I think that's a very unique way to finance it. You finance it with the pledge directly.
Yeah. The pledge thing, yeah. Well, it was a great way of doing things, to be honest with you. It was it's a great way for the fans to get involved, and actually they directly, you know, we wanted to do a live DVD, and it was like, look, we couldn't afford it, you know, we haven't got a record company behind us anymore, and yeah, it was a really interesting way of doing things actually, and quite exciting for us to go and find things that we've got. I've got so many things, archive stuff tucked away that I keep hold of, and which is amazing for fans, and yeah, it was interesting to do. Quite a lot of bands have done it now, and they started doing it. Yeah.
The fact of changing of management, do you think it's going to change? I don't know, where you work, I
think we hope so. We always think with new avenues that you explore, it's going to bring new and exciting adventures, possibilities for the band, and we feel we've gone through a crossover period now from what we had before, and now we're moving into a new era of the band with different representation and new outlets for the music, and yeah, we don't want to go sideways, we want to always go forward, you know, as individuals we all do, and that's what we'll continue to strive to do. And
maybe in symphonic orchestra for every concert, so Darius could be happy. And well, the controlling crowds was when I first heard, and friends said like, yeah, it's a 3-part. The first it was 3-part. I thought, yeah, it was in symphony already.
Well, they did have, you know, we called an orchestra over the top and had a string arranger. So I think you probably always had that in mind.
Well, with the 3 parts, it's like movements, isn't it? It's like doing it in 3 movements. So, but I mean, I suppose that was in our heads, but it's more down to the fact you had to give people a break as well. It's pretty flipping intense as an album, and kind of from the start. And if you just have that all, because we would like to join all the tracks together, but you need to give people a rest, you know, to have a little cup of tea.
You had to cut it.
Yeah.
You had to cut it in 10 tracks.
Yeah, we did it. Well, it's one of those things. We all sit there and work out what works. You know, we have a lot of music, and then we sort of sit there and work what tracks work in what order, and then you know, we couldn't fit all the ones we wanted onto the first Controlling Crowds. Hence why we had, you know, part 4. You know, so because we did write a hell of a lot of good, you know, great songs. So, but doing it in the parts is quite interesting. You know, I quite like that. I like that idea. And people like their sort of certain parts. Some people say, I love part 2 better than that, or that, you know, and it's great.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Thanks, Thanks.